Allegra, if I pop this, it's a different, is it probably
different.
all the same stuff?
Allegra, I think, is a histamine 1 blocker. That's histamine 2. You should be fine.
Okay.
Because if you did Allegra and you're still feeling bad, this will help. It's not going to make you sleepy either.
Okay, here
Yes.
goes.
Right.
Not knowing anything else about your medical history and being a nurse, this is just, yeah.
I'm not going to pass out.
Highly
Oh,
unlikely.
you shouldn't have mixed Allegra and Zyrtec.
It's like mixing vodka and beer. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Say it the next morning. But the general specimen acquisition protocols have been really great in the past 7 or 8 years because we have this general protocol, we have a general consent, and then we have an a la carte budget. So on the front end, we develop everything in advance, and then as our sponsor has R&D needs, they shoot me a work order that says, Missy, I need 200 vaginal swabs, patients that are symptomatic. And they give me criteria like this, and then we use the same consent form over and over and over. We use the same budget over and over. If we have any weirdness that, like now I'm being asked for nasopharyngeal swabs, and we had that covered in one part. We said nasal swabs, but then we didn't actually click and put it in our budget. We had it in there thinking, we'll figure it out when it happens. So now we kind of have to go back and redo that. But yeah, that's kind of the general scope of that.
Okay.
I think we probably, because we get requests a lot for fetal tissue, we need to look at something like that maybe for fetal tissue as well.
Okay.
Right.
It sounds like maybe some language would have to be drafted. And
Yeah, so it sounds like so
can
you
send
don't have
I've got a de-identified protocol that lists all different specimen types, and we could
do
easily
you have
share
a
that.
hard copy of that?
I can print it out.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
yeah, just to kind of see how much would we have to add,
right.
or
Yeah.
But your consent form is not fetal tissue specific right now.
Yep.
It's not a.
Okay.
And as far as how that fits with like CFR regulations and some of the NIH requirements and stuff, because most researchers who are using that material, unless it's a privately funded company like NeuralStem or something like
Right.
that, they are relying on NIH grant money, and so it's
Right.
there's certain boxes they want to check. And
Yes. Well, and that brings up a horse of a different color as well, because anything the regulations have changed lately in terms of grants, that if you guys or we are listed as like a subcontractor on this grant for collection, used to be we're not subject to audits from NIH or anything. That has changed. Yes, so you as a subcontractor, you have to be aware of the same regulations you would if you were the grant holder, and comply with them, even though it may not apply whatsoever. So we're very strategic in the grants that we accept being involved with, and I'll tell you, there's very few at our organization. I can count them on one hand and have fingers left.
Oh, wow.
Just because, we get audited all the time because we're Planned Parenthood for everything else. So we're very risk averse and
Right.
but strategic.
Yeah.
So we'll take on grants where we have a lot of mission type support, and it's something we're really, really behind. But otherwise, we really focus on our industry-sponsored studies.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
So you get audited by the NIH.
we could
Even under
as a
this
sub-
administration, I'm just like.
Oh yeah.
All right. So this will tie into patient volume. I mean, that's why we
Oh,
really
yeah.
wanted to meet with you. In the past, promising something to our research clients and then not being able to deliver because our contacts, the volume wasn't there for specific requests that we're
Right.
getting. So, do we have data on what kind of volume you have and what?
We do. Make myself a note of things I'm going to send to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll send you a blank ICF, a blank protocol. I can get you some clinic visit information. You're lucky because it just came out for 2014. So And, in terms of like males and females that we see, age groups, I can give you visits, people who come into our clinics. This affiliate here in the Houston area is made up of 9 family planning health centers, including this building, 2 in Louisiana, 7 in the Houston area, and then in this building, there's our surgical services area where trauma works, our abortion services area, and then our family planning clinic, and then the research clinic is also all encompassed in this one building.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So I can get you some
Great.
figures. Yeah.
And in that, the gestational age, if that could be included in that.
Because also obviously we're most interested in second trimester specimens, and most of the requests tend to be from 16 weeks and up. That's probably your experience already with what if you have a lot of people request.
It depends. Most of our contacts are academic over in the Texas Medical Center, and depending on what they're researching, they may not want second trimester. Yeah. They may want only first trimester, but sometimes they're very prescribed in what they want. They want, first trimester, this many weeks, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's just very specific as to what they want. So, yeah.
Okay. And then the quality of the specimen, so the quality, and then depending on the age.
Can you speak? I'm sorry to interrupt. Speak some more about the quality.
That's really your.
So for example, most of the clients that that we see and that we would service are people who are in the regenerative medicine field. They're doing stem cell studies specifically. My experience is mostly with with humanized mouse models. So I think I mentioned the liver thymus pairs that are really important. And when you're using those, especially if you're going to do a cell isolation, people think, oh, cells, well, the tissue has a bunch of them, right? It's like millions. Well, the stem cell population is only a specific ratio to the total number of cells that are in there. And they also tend to be more fragile than the other cells you're dealing with. So if you're wanting to get a good yield when you're doing that isolation, the integrity of that tissue sample itself is the physical integrity is pretty important.
Okay. So just to clarify, one thing that is a disadvantage in terms of utilizing our site is the recent regulations have made it almost impossible for us to use abortion pills. So it's kind of complicated. If you want to do the research, it's Texas House Bill 2.
No, we don't want stuff from medical. I mean, I think the only pill abortion we want would be like an induction from later.
So for earlier trimester, like anything that's from an abortion pill, medication abortion, there's more of a possibility of having everything intact.
Right. But
versus a surgical abortion that, the products of conception are not intact.
But are your patients doing medication abortion here at that's all at home, right? So
it's basically at home, but depending on when they come back, because they have to come back would have to come back for a series of pills and what have you. Yeah, they could potentially be here or be given a sterile cup to take home with them.
Has that ever been done before? Have you collected? No.
Okay, so
off topic. Yes.
Okay.
I'm just surprised. I mean, I like thinking outside the box, and I'm just like, could we do that? Because the thing is that becomes very critical is also just the time from the completion of the procedure to actually packaging and shipping the material, especially when we're talking about isolating stem cells and the cell viability and all that. The timing is really, really critical.
Right.
And so, to me, I don't know if it's if someone is laboring out a first trimester pregnancy for, I imagine it takes, quite a while. It takes much longer than a surgical procedure, really, and it just relying on the patient to come back.
That's the big piece.
I don't know if that's,
right.
I don't know if that's...
In terms of quality, I had to go get with Trom, asking her, just, their general processes.
Not Tram, I'm saying.
She responds to you. So for POC, we call it POC, products of conception that are less than 16 weeks, After the procedure, it's evaluated either in a syringe that's very, very small, or a non-sterile glass jar via the vacuum pump as part of the procedure. It's processed in the lab. It's a non-sterile process, and it's unless it's evidence collection. That's why I asked you about that, because we actually do quite a bit of evidence collection in terms of, rape patients or whatever, where everything has to be sterile, because then it's going to go on to be analyzed outside of here. So this is still less than 16 weeks. Tissue is washed through a strainer and placed in a glass tray. The tray sits on top of an x-ray box and is floated with water. The transparency makes it identification of all the parts easier. After the physician has confirmed the tissue correlates with gestational age, tissue is placed in a biohazard container and gets discarded into a single container, and then is placed in the freezer. Anything after 6 weeks is immediately placed in the freezer after the procedure, and it is all sent away once a week for incineration. So that's the scope of all of it.
So this is kind of an avenue off, but this is something in our visits of late that I saw, and I don't know that much about this area. This is more Robert's, but we're asking for intact specimen, and the technician took a hose and was just full force spraying, and Robert said, well, could you be losing things?
It's, or not even just losing, but there's basically two considerations for, when we're trying to get the particular, organ types or tissue types requested. One factor for specimen quality is the nature of the procedure itself. Are you doing an IPAS? Are you doing electrical section? Are you doing a D&E? Is it breech presentation? Stuff like that. Yeah. But then what we're realizing, as we're observing some of the process here, is that there's kind of another component too. When we're doing the regular POC check and they're blasting with the hose in there, you could have a lot of stuff still sitting in the body cavity. But you're blasting it with the fire hose, and it's going all over, and then you dump it all in the light dish, and then you've got to play find the liver for for an hour after that.
Well, so under the scope of where we probably have an edge over other organizations, our organization has been doing research for many, many, many years, and we've had studies in which the company, or in the case of the investigator, has a specific need for a certain portion of the products of conception, and we bake that into our contract and our protocol that we follow this. So we deviate from our standard in order to do that. So we can do it in a way that we're still verifying that everything is there for the safety of the patient, but then we still maintain the integrity of that sample.
Okay.
So that's definitely something we can do. But as far as this is our standard process, telling you this, so then we can get creative about when and where and under what conditions can we interject something that is specific to the tissue procurement needs.
Sorry, that goes to my perfect for my next. Can you get creative? Can you alter if we say? We need a liver.
Or not just liver, thymus, but let's say neural tissue is
very
difficult because.
Could you adjust the procedure if you knew they need high volume of this? Could you match that and?
18 to 22 week neural specimens, in
so
both hemispheres intact.
Yes. You could do that.
Yeah, I think we can. Some of it is really outside. Some of it will be happenstance, because sometimes as the procedure is happening, the procedure itself for the removal is generally standardized. I'm saying generally loosely, generally standardized, and so just depending on the patient's anatomy, how many weeks, where it's placed in the uterus, we're going to potentially be able to have some that will be more or less intact, and then some that will not be. Right. So, but it's something that we can look at exploring how we can make that happen, so we have a higher chance. It'll probably also require a little bit of input from the doctors, because the doctors are the ones asking directly, doing that, and when it matters, in the cases of when it's mattered and the physicians also need an intact specimen, they can make it happen.
Right.
So we just need to figure out how
Okay.
that we can do this, under our project needs.
Right.
How many providers practice in the second trimester?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't. Everybody that is here does.
And really, specifically the later than 16-week cases, I guess.
I want to say that we have 6.
6 providers that go beyond 16 weeks.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody has been credentialed because even before the laws changed that required an ambulatory surgical center in Texas to be, even though that's not, it's at the Supreme Court right now. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Mandates that abortions in Texas have to be performed at an ASC. When we moved into this building in 2010, we went from a outpatient clinic and converted it to an ASC. So we're already there. So in the event the laws go through,
Right.
And become enacted, we will be only one of either 6 or 8 facilities in the entire state. So,
which means your volume will go through the roof.
yeah.
But it sounds like you were very proactive about seeing where things were going.
Yeah.
You're ready to.
I don't think it was. I think it was accident. I don't think it was anyone's
okay.
radar.
Uh-huh.
We knew that we wanted to do abortions at 16 weeks and past, and knowing that in a lot of those cases an ASC is required, we went ahead and just bumped it up.
Oh.
Just because business-wise, we wanted to be able to offer that,
Right,
to the community, and because there's so many. Even though we have several academic institutions here, the way abortion is going in the United States, that's not even being taught. And even some of the very large academic institutions that would do second trimester abortions, especially for fetal anomalies, they're not even doing it anymore. So all of those patients are sent here. Yeah, it's actually pretty sad that patients in that situation with a fetal anomaly, going through everything, still have to jump through additional hoops.
Deal with the stigma.
Hardships on,
To come here.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Okay.
yeah, that's
So-
another whole topic.
Yeah, it certainly is. So it sounds like you have physicians that would be able to change the procedure a bit if they're knowing, okay, this patient could provide certain specimens and we want them intact, so that physician has the knowledge, the ability to change the procedure a bit just to make sure that we can get...
And it will depend. Obviously, the change in the procedure will have to be where it's not going to put the patient at more risk.
Yeah.
Prolong the procedure, putting her at more risk, and altering the procedure where we leave contents in the patient, which obviously we're trying to get.
We want all of
out.
them.
We want everything. But yeah, it's and that's something we'll have to discuss, with the docs and see how they can do it. Because some of our doctors in the past have projects and they're collecting the specimens, so they do it in a way that they get the best specimen. So I know it can happen.
The doctors were also doing research. Oh wow.
Yeah. So
Okay, very good.
Now, can they, for example, convert to breech under ultrasound guidance, and that?
I guess it's going to depend.
On their skills.
Yeah, on their skills and everything, and yeah, we can be flexible to do whatever, but I don't know. We'll have to have further discussions with.
That's
them
really
about,
going to be that's their area of expertise.
Yes.
Yeah. Does Amna Dermish practice here ever, or is she only at the Greater Texas affiliate?
I think Greater Texas. I don't recognize her name at all.
Yeah.
We do have some doctors that drive in from other locations, but her name is not one that I recognize.
Okay. Did we talk about dissection methods?
No, so that would be that. So that I guess would be TRAM's. Who actually does the tissue procurement for fetal tissue if it's a request that you guys are processing?
Traumas group, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Traumas group does, and any type of. We've had some of the physicians that we work with in the med center, not our physicians here, that we have a contract to collect specimens with. That they want the actual specimen handled differently or put in a different media or whatever. So yeah, we work with them. I sit with Trom and we go over what the needs are, how it can be fit in, how we can integrate it in a way that everyone's needs are met, and then, discuss, logistics of how that's going to look, how many patients, strategically what patients should we really approach, so it's less administrative burden on everyone. So yeah, we get into all those details when we have more specifics. So, yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about the burden that I imagine, well, I know from other clients that we have, the burden that it puts on you and our compensation to you to make sure that this is working on both ends. You're happy, we're happy. It's beneficial for you, beneficial for us. I have an idea of what burden that in the past where people have been very happy and then, oh my goodness, I didn't know that we'd have to do this or store this or you'd be in the way or just all sorts of.
It really, again, it'll get specific to what your needs are. We do have an edge because we've done so much research. A lot of their staff already has CITI training. I don't know if you know what that means, but it's a level of research training that they know how to consent the patient.
What is CIT?
CITI, it's Collaborative Institute Training Initiative, and it's where people get research-specific training in how to protect human subjects, and so they know how to consent the patient, they know how to do everything, and we've been doing it to where we're kind of aware of the burden on the administrative side, and then actually in the POC room, there's a little area, a little space, that will be training that would be specific to those folks. So as far as the administrative burden, it's working out the logistics on our end. That's where having a research department like ours, again, we have that edge because, even though we don't do that as frequently as all of the other projects I was telling you about, that is something that we have done in the past, and we work closely with Trom's group. Our department is 5 here in research, so we have some ex officio staff members upstairs that have training and what have you that are able to integrate it. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily easy, one of the things that we really work to do is integration, seamless integration, the best that we can, taking into consideration what our standards are and why these standards are here and the needs of the client, and trying to work that into where we get the samples in the manner, in the time, in the condition that you need them in. We're not compromising patient safety, we're not compromising clinic flow, and it's a juggle. And initially, I mean, there's hiccups always.
Right.
There's always hiccups.
I'm
not going to say we're going to come right out of the chute being perfect, but
Right.
yeah, we do that now. And you said something about you guys wanting to be on site.
Well, if you've got someone, that's great.
Yeah.
Because when we have to be on site, we kind of get in the way. Sometimes staff isn't appreciative of that. What I found in the past is making compensation for certain specimen types higher, just to keep the customers happier.
Right.
So,
and we would definitely need to work that out in terms of budgeting, especially because of the current situation with the regulations. They're extremely busy up there, and they're very excited about it. And we have patients that come in all the time asking if they can donate the fetal tissue. A, because they hear about it in the media and whatever, and B, because we've done these projects in the past, and I don't know how, but word gets out there. People don't talk about their abortion, so how they talk about the fact they donated
I'm glad
the fetal
to hear that
tissue.
that's happening, though, because I
Yeah.
think that whole stigma can just be.
Oh gosh, I
Right?
wish. Yeah, I wish we were further along there. Yeah. But yeah, they actually, because they most of the time when folks come in and they've made that decision already, they're there. There's no boohooing, grief, and things that are often portrayed. But to see some benefit to the situation,
Exactly.
a lot of women ask to be able to donate the fetal tissue somehow. So yeah, and I'll show you when we do our tour as far as storage and everything. We already have contracts with dry ice companies. We have -80, -2 2 minus 20, 2 refrigerators, 2 incubators. So we do a lot of research, so we have capacity that maybe other facilities that are only clinical don't
Right.
have.
Right.
And we get what we need to do to alter our standard of care where we're still maintaining patient safety, still maintaining efficiency in clinic operations, but we integrate research into it.
Okay, so it sounds like as far as your cost, it's not going to be, it'll just be, you're already set up.
We're already set up. We will definitely need to work out, something in terms of covering additional costs for additional
Exactly.
things related to it.
Right.
I'm very particular about working with the language of a budget and contract to where the language is specific to covering the administrative costs and not necessarily the per specimen, because that borders on some language in the federal regs. It's a little touchy. And same thing, we don't offer the patient any compensation at all.
Right,
of
right.
course, because that's expressly prohibited. So, but yeah, we can definitely work that out. And realizing that most of the clients that we have had are academic institutions. We've had some industry sponsors as well. And we had a collection that was going on when I got here that had been multi-year. I mean, it was at least 3 years of collecting specimens in a certain gestational age in a certain way. Those actually worked really, really well because our staff and they really like to get on autopilot. They want to come in, they want to do their job, they want to do it well, and if we have a long-term project where we're collecting lots and lots and lots of specimens, they can get on autopilot after the initial training pretty quickly. So, everyone likes monotony.
Right.
Well, to an extent,
It's
So, yeah.
efficiency. I see it as.
It is. It is. So if you do this the same way every time, and you don't have to engage that part of your brain that, okay, this is new, I'm figuring it out, and that kind of uncomfortable feeling. Once you get into that pattern, that feels good, and staff really like that. So that's one of the areas that I work with trauma, or I work with our other clinics to get them there very, very quickly. That means being a little pushy. That's the word has been applied to me in the beginning, because I realize it's a Band-Aid approach. We get it done and get it incorporated into your operations real quickly, get everybody on board, and then get that efficiency.
Okay, that sounds great. In those cases when, and Robert can speak to this again, but I'm more on the business end of it.
Yeah.
I know that just going with the history of what's happened and wanting to not have that happen again. So for specific specimens, the compensation would be higher because we know you're going to run into problems.
There's going to be more.
How do we frame that so that we're not saying we're giving a higher?
Yeah, we can work it out in the context of obviously the procedure itself is more complicated. So that anything that we integrate into that procedure without having you cover the procedural cost is going to be higher, right? So anything about higher gestational age, there's more opportunity for complication. There's more administrative time involved.